हाय गाइस, दिस इज करुणा। बोर्ड एग्जाम में बहुत ही कम टाइम बचा है, सो ब्रिंगिंग यू अ रिविजन स्केड्यूल फॉर ग्रेड 12th इंग्लिश सीबीएसई। तो आज जो हम, जैसा मैंने आपको पहले बताया था, व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू डू टुडे इज कीपिंग क्वाइट। दिस इज अ पोम बाय Pablo Neruda. Now, before I begin, do like and subscribe at the end of my class. You could also write the topics that you would like me to cover first so that there's a quick revision of all the important topics that we are to do. Now, let's go ahead with the poem Keeping Quiet. Keeping Quiet. This poem, as the title suggests, it talks about the importance of quietude, the importance of calm mind. कि जब हम, we reach a stage where we are quiet and peaceful, we get a lot of transformative ideas. So we do good to ourselves, we do good to our surroundings, to nature, and to humankind at large. So is poem mein the poet Pablo Neruda talks about the importance of keeping quiet. So let's go ahead first with the key ideas or topics that's there in this poem. So theme of silence and introspection. Silence क्या होता है? Quietude, चुप रहने से, और introspection, wherein we uh, find about things. So that's called introspection. So the poet urges everyone to count to 12 and remain silent, and he advocates for self-reflection and inner peace. क्या होगा उससे? जब हम चुप रहेंगे, universally we'll achieve a goal where everybody is collectively bound by the concept of humanity. कोई barrier नहीं होगा, कोई language division नहीं होगा, there's no war going on at that time. हम सब चुप रहेंगे, and that is how it will be a strange and exotic moment जब हम सब साथ रहेंगे. So it will be harmony of nature. What will happen? There'll be no barrier. What will happen? I will not harm nature. I will get time to look at myself and realize, rethink about my actions, कि मेरे actions मुझे चीजों को, मेरी surroundings को कैसे harm कर रहे हैं या कैसे benefit पहुंचा रहे हैं. The poet also criticizes war. War leads to destruction is what he says. कि जितनी बार wars हुए हैं, it only leads to damage, destruction. There's nothing good about war. So he says when we are quiet, we will think that we will come to realize that wars are not good, and we'll realize that, it's peaceful to be together, to be quiet, to be with each other. That's the importance of being a human. So it will not be an end. Being quiet will not lead to an end, it will be a new beginning. Now poet towards the end also emphasizes the fact that I'm not talking about death. He says that there's no death, trucks with death, that I'm advocating, because death may be peace hai, but he's not advocating death. He is simply advocating कि, just like nature, there's autumn, and after autumn winter, and then there's spring. तो ये जो through earth, through the medium, through the channel of the our surroundings, we come to know that being quiet leads to rejuvenation. Usse, we'll try to figure out our goals. The visions will be more clear, and we will work in humanity and towards humanity and in unison. So again, when he begins the poem, he says let's be quiet, and towards the end also he invites for the same quietude. He says let's all be quiet, let's all be collected together and be bound by humanity. Now let me paraphrase this poem for you. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. जो ये 12 नंबर है, it basically means a universal achievement of quietude. 12, it could be 12 months, it could be 12 minutes. It's not explicitly mentioned, but it just says that 12, now we will count to 12. So that counting to 12 refers to the universal achievement of quietude. एक time जहां पे सब, everybody will be bound together. Why? Because सब everybody is quiet. So he says, for once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Language से क्या होता है? When I speak my language, you speak yours, and there's a communication barrier. So that barrier gets effaced when I am not speaking. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now, this word arms, arms here is a pun. Pun क्या होता है? Word play. जब एक word से दो meanings होते हैं, तो arms here refers to the physical aspect of our body, arms, and second arms is arms and ammunitions. So usage of both the arms causes destruction. ये जो arms है, जो यहाँ पे mentioned है, the word arms, it has two meanings: arm, my hands, my arms, and second is arms and ammunition. He says, why not, why should we not move our arms? Because moving either or usage of either will cause destruction. It would be an exotic moment. बोर्ड एग्जाम में कई बार 1 मार्क के क्वेश्चन ऐसे आते हैं. Why would it be an exotic moment? क्योंकि when everybody is quiet, it's a marvelous moment when everybody is collectively bound by the idea of peace. Without rush, without engines, we will all be together in sudden strangeness. Now, this sudden strangeness, it is alliteration. The sound, the sound is alliteration. So we will all be together. Why? Because we are quiet. Why? Because that moment is exotic. Now, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. Here, whales are symbolic of nature. Fishermen, metaphorically, symbolically, means humanity. So when we are quiet, we will realize that our actions are harming nature. So it won't harm nature. So fishermen will get time to realize that their actions have been harming nature. And man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now again, his hurt hands is alliteration. His hurt hands. Her sound repeated, that's alliteration. So what would happen again when we are quiet? First, we will be bound by a sudden strangeness. Ek, hum sab, there would be no rush, no engines. Fishermen, symbolic of humanity, would get time to, he would not harm whales, to get time to reflect that he had been harming nature. And man gathering salt, again reflective of humanity, will come to know that he now has time to look at himself. क्योंकि ये जो pursuit of goals है, ये जो हमारे goals set हैं, उनको achieve करने में we are failing to look at ourselves. But when we are quiet, we will get time to reflect upon our actions, and we'll get time to reflect upon our deeds. Coming to the next slide, sorry. So he those who prepare green wars. What are green wars? Wars against nature, deforestation. That's green wars. Wars with gas, chemical wars, wars with fire, nuclear wars. So in sub wars में जो लोग हैं, victory with no survivors. Again, this line is important. Victory with no survivors. इसका क्या मतलब होता है? That even when I am a part of a war and I'm victorious, I don't win. Why? Because war leads only to damage. It's damaging somebody's life, and that's not the how humanity should perceive life. So it's a victory with no survivors. So what will happen? Those who prepare green wars, those who harm nature, those who indulge in wars with gas, जो लोग wars with fire, nuclear wars में involve होते हैं, the wars that have no survivors, victory लेकिन कोई survivors नहीं है to celebrate, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. तो जब हम चुप रहेंगे, तो इन सब से दूर होके we will all put clean clothes, meaning we will all be advocates of peace. Putting on clean clothes, meaning we will all advocate peace, and we will walk in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. So he's not telling that, stop doing everything and just sit idle. That's not what he's advocating. Life is what it is about. So life goes on, life moves on, life is happening while we continue to live. I want no truck with death. Neither is the poet advocating the idea of nihilation. He's not saying, I want death to be the ultimate goal, because death may be peace hai, but that's not what he's aiming at. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing. So we human beings have been reduced to a place wherein they have goals, they keep looking and striving, and there's no ending. Wants and needs are no ending, there's no end to it, so they keep moving without realizing that they have, they have become so centered about their goals, that they barely get time to them for themselves. So it's a kind of existential threat that we are dealing with right now. So jab hum kuch so if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, और एक बार when we stop having those goals, and एक बार हम जब we have that moment of peace and quiet, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves. Sad क्यों है humanity? Why are human beings sad? Because they don't understand themselves, they don't understand their feelings, they don't understand what's going inside. They just have fixed uh, goals, and they are rushing towards their goals, and of threatening ourselves with death. So before I achieve death, I have to achieve my goal. We are so single minded about achieving those goals that we forget what we are to deal with. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So with here earth is personified. It is said that earth can teach us that एक ऑटम के बाद विंटर के बाद स्प्रिंग वापस आता है. So also when we are quiet, that will lead us to rejuvenate, revitalize, rechannelize our energy, and then move ahead with a fresh mind, with a more constructive ideas and not destructive ones. So now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So that invitation to be quiet is extended again towards the end of the poem. So that is what he says. Now, you see, we talked about how fishermen at the sea would not harm whales, and man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. मतलब इस एक stanza था wherein if we are quiet, we'll realize that हमारे जो actions हैं वो nature, whales are a part of nature. So because of those actions, I am harming nature, I am not doing good to nature. Or I will also get time to look at my self, look at myself and look at my इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कि मैंने खुद के साथ भी वो चीजें आई हैव ओवरलुक्ड माय नीड्स एंड वांट्स एंड मेरे deep wishes I have forgotten to see, because मैं इतनी goal oriented हो गई, इतने life में I had those set values कि मैं I forgot to look at myself. Now these are wars. The पहल आप देखो, green wars is deforestation, wars with gas, chemical wars, and wars with fire, nuclear wars. इन सबसे क्या होता है? Damage, destruction. Poet says that that's not what I want. I do not want damage and destruction. जब हम चुप रहेंगे तो हमको रियलाइज होगा कि हम कितना डैमेज करते हैं अर्थ, नेचर, ह्यूमैनिटी, अपने आप. सो दैट्स व्हेन वी रियलाइज द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ बीइंग क्वाइट. Now, he says victory with no survivors. मतलब क्या हुआ? Victory, this line could be important. यहाँ से एक या दो मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन भी आ सकता है. That war leads to only destruction. It leads to loss, suffering. तो वो जीत भी हासिल करके क्या, in those wars wherein there's nobody to celebrate. So there's nothing good about war is what he advocates. Now he says that, वो जो ट्रक्स, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि सारा काम छोड़ के we just sit idle and do nothing. That's not what he aims at. What he aims at is, and neither does he advocate death. So he says that nihilism is not what I want, and I do not advocate for death, but that's not the solution. The solution is, if I am quiet, I realize that मैं that quietude, that moment of silence will help me channelize my energy to a right direction. So I told you how the earth can teach us. Ab dekho, the earth to in the autumn, it's all dry, leaves fallen, all withered. It doesn't look good, but in this when we have spring, it's all rejuvenation and channelizing of energy and beauty. So that's how the earth teaches us through the cycles of nature, through the cycles of weather, that because when we are quiet, we also will revitalize, we will have beautiful thoughts like the earth has when it has spring. Now आप ये देखें, now we will count to 12, matlab it represents a moment of unity and stillness. We will all keep still, matlab we will keep our mind collected, silent, so that good thoughts come in our heads. For once on the face of the earth, it will be an exotic moment. एक बार अगर हम चुप होके अपनी अच्छी बातें will come, and it will be a strange moment. सब साथ में रहेंगे. It'll be a good moment. Let's not speak in any language. Why? Because language creates barriers. When we are quiet, we do not create barrier. We are bound by humanity. That's why that moment will be exotic. Let's stop for 1 second. एक कुछ for some time, if we are quiet, we'll realize that fishermen in the cold sea will not harm whales. Matlab jo human beings who are destroying nature will not do that. The man gathering salt, again, man gathering salt is a metaphor or symbolic of humanity at large. He will get time to look at himself and the damage that he has done to himself. Those who prepare in green wars, matlab people who are fighting a war against uh, nature, meaning deforestation, nuclear wars, wars with chemicals, victory with no survivors. So, although in a war you might be victorious, but because you have lost your people, there's no good quality about war. Would put on clean clothes, they will advocate the idea of humanity and peace. Life is what it is about. Life is to live. And he says, I do not want any truck with death, meaning he is not talking about death at all. He's talking about silence and how silence has the quality of transformation. जब हम silent होंगे, अच्छे thoughts आएंगे, we can channelize those beautiful thoughts, और हम एक constructive goal की तरफ will approach rather than a destructive one. And the earth can teach us how to be quiet and come back with beauty and grace. We will also do that. As in when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive on earth, in the face of the earth, when everything is quiet in during autumn, it comes back with a beautified energy in the spring. So now towards the end, he again says that now I'll count up to 12 and you will keep quiet and I will go. So he advocates that, he brings back, sums up with that same idea again towards the end of the poem. Let's do the literary device. जहां पे भी sounds का repetition है, that is hurt hands. I have not mentioned here his hurt hands is alliteration. We would was sound. We would is repetition of a sound, so that's again alliteration. Sudden strangeness, alliteration. Anaphora क्या होता है? जब हमारा sentence repetition of the same word at the beginning of the successive line. तो आप देखो, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. So the word let's, that's called anaphora. So the let's emphasizes the poet's appeal for collective introspection. Let us all imagery, descriptive language, जो भी पढ़ के हमारे दिमाग में एक image आता है, that's called imagery. So fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. So and man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. All that is imagery. Personification, perhaps the earth can teach us. Earth teaching us, earth having human quality, human attribute is personification. So earth is personified here. Victory with no survivors. War is metaphorically presented as a meaningless pursuit that benefits no one. So, war does not have any goodness associated with it. Symbolism, those who prepare green wars are symbolic of deforestation, wars with gas, chemical wars, wars with fire, nuclear wars. Enjambment कब होता है? जब lines are not finished in one sentence and they run to the next sentence. So perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves. तो जब हम चुप रहेंगे, ये जो silence है, it will interrupt, it will shake that sadness and make us realize कि हम इतने goal oriented हो गए हैं कि we do not realize our sadness and we do not understand ourselves. So you see how the line runs. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves. तो वो idea complete नहीं है. It runs, the lines runs into the next line. That's what enjambment is. So now you have three questions to think about. Answer any one of this in the comment section. So if there's any topic that you would like me to cover for the next class, do let me know. So the questions that I'm leaving you with is, what does the poet advocate through the title of the poem Keeping Quiet? Let's assume it's 2 marks question. What does arms mean in the poem? मैंने बताया था arms के दो meaning हैं. If you've gone through the entire poem, you should be able to answer arms के दो meaning क्या हैं. What does the poet invoke of nature through life under apparent stillness? Meaning, what is the idea that's propagated through nature? Life under apparent stillness, जब autumn के बाद spring आता है, that whole idea, what does it teach you? So, okay, bye bye. See you. I'll see you with the next topic. I'm thinking of taking up any prose lessons. Is there anything, if there's anything specific that you would want me to cover, do let me know. Bye bye. Thank you so much.